You're listening to Kizuki, the podcast. I'm Mae Yoshikawa, and I define the Japanese concept of Kizuki as the following. Kizuki 1. A moment of epiphany, an aha of realization or insight which opens the knower to a new dimension of truth that was formerly unknown. 2. Steps in an incremental growth of awareness, resulting in a movement from ignorance to greater awareness of the bigger picture. A kind of knowing that cannot be undone, that cannot be unrealized. As a longtime yoga and meditation practitioner, a world traveler and curious self-explorer, I'm obsessed with Kizukis. Listen on each week for inspiring and enlightening stories that may just tip you over for your next aha. On this week's episode, Like for Like. The other day I was talking to a student of mine, and he has a beautiful mind. He's a big thinker, a figure outer, and because he's so sharp, even as we're discussing meditation and mindfulness and self-awareness, he's like thinking about it and conceptualizing it and pulling at threads to figure out his way forward. And I totally get it because I've been the exact same way. I think many of us have, because the mind is the primary tool that we've all learned to engage in through thoughts, conceptualization, identification, and it's not very often that we've learned to shed light on the mind itself as a tool. So I had this beautiful conversation with him about how at some point in the practice of meditation, you have to realize that there is a limit to the function of the mind, and that then the wisest way to use the mind, to use your thoughts, is to understand that, there is a limit to this tool, and beyond this point, no amount of thinking can help. Then, to our mind's great dismay, we have to have just enough courage to release that tool, that very tool of the mind that we've utilized to get us here. And a couple of days later, like today, as I was reflecting on this conversation, it reminded me of a time a number of years ago in a totally different area, but in a similar way, as I was learning to evolve and move beyond an ongoing theme for myself at that point, I realized that I'm going to have to do things in a wholly different way if I want to move forward beyond this point. So I'm going to read to you today and share this story in the form of an episode. It's called The Law of Like for Like, and it's a piece from my memoir, yet to be published. And just to give you a little bit of backdrop into the story, this is a time after my very difficult divorce from my first husband, Isa, my first son's biological father. And, it was very, very challenging for me. I felt very wounded and hurt after that relationship. And it took me years to kind of get back on my feet and find joy in life again. And as some of you know, it's always been the yoga and the meditation that have brought me home to myself. So I would go to India every year to further my studies in yoga and meditation. And each year I would come back to Japan from India and teach the same thing that I was learning. So the community around me grew and grew. And I realized that as I was climbing out to the other side of that tunnel at the time, that my work life was good. My home life, with my son Isa was good. My community was growing and that I was finding my way again, and everything felt good, except in one area. So that's what this story is about, and here it goes. With all of this growth, expansion, and movement forward, however, inwardly, I still felt stuck in one particular area of my life. That was love. The initial years after the tsunami of my divorce was all about survival. Then, before I knew it, 5 years had passed. I had charged forward in survival mode for so long that it took me another couple of years just to shake off that survivor mentality. At some point, I had to come to terms with the fact that as long as I was going to identify myself with feeling like a survivor, I was still going to be carrying the weight of that trauma on my back. In that sense, true survival, or the true coming out on the other end of the tunnel, only comes in the moment the trauma has become so insignificant to you that you don't actively identify with any part of it anymore. Work life, check. Home life, check. Friends and social life, double check. Yes, all fronts of my life seem to be healing and moving forward from the deep trench of a shocking divorce, except love. By then, I had developed a lot of awareness around my soreness on the topic too. I think I wanted to heal it, not only because I could not stop believing in love, but also because I knew it was obviously a huge sore spot, and I couldn't imagine living the rest of my life with that bearing on me. True seeker? Or just another old sucker for love? Who knows? Maybe both. It's kind of funny how when you become an established yoga teacher, sometimes people look up to you like you sort of got it all figured out. Nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is that yoga teachers are some of the most lost of us all. That's why we got into yoga with extra fervor in the first place. So, there I was, a yoga teacher, seemingly cruising on by and knowing exactly where I was so stuck inside. Then one day, a close friend sent me a link to this blog authored by a young Japanese call girl. Her candid articles revealed the lessons she learned through all of her myriad of experiences with men in society. All the pain, the hurt, coming face to face with dirtbags, as well as openings, revelations, acceptance, and all-out orgasms. Diving into her world of sex, she claims, has led her to deep spiritual truths about the nature of masculinity and femininity, and a little bit of life. It sounds a little radical and out of the box, I know. But let's just say her articles were intriguing enough that my friend felt inclined to send one my way. Anyway, the only thing I need to mention here is my one key takeaway from this call girl's blog. If you've been wounded by a man, let a man heal you. Sounds like something you'd hear out of a seasoned Shinjuku bar mama, said my friend, referring to those matronly women who supervise bars in the not-so-classy Neon district of Tokyo. I know, but I have to tell you that line sort of resonated with me, I confessed to her. I have to tell you because I can't tell anybody else, we laughed. It was no secret that the wound I carried from my third tsunami, my experience with my first husband, was deeply sexual in nature. There was something so wrong about being utterly betrayed in those early months just after having given birth at my most vulnerable time by the one person that I trusted most. Whenever any emotion was too sore or raw to speak about, I journaled about it to gain perspective within myself. Pen and notebook have been my best spiritual tools, right up there with my favorite yoga mat, which I've been using for close to 20 years now. I had come a long way since starting from the depths of abyss, not knowing which way was up. I had healed myself in so many ways, through the development of careful awareness and acceptance, and a thorough releasing of unnecessary emotional burdens. Still, in 5 years since my divorce, I had not felt ready for a new relationship. Then I read that line, "If you've been wounded by a man, let a man heal you." And I got this vivid visual in my mind of the eggshell in the coconut. Let me explain. Ever crack an egg and accidentally get a small piece of eggshell in the bowl? It's impossibly difficult to get that little piece out by using a spoon or even your fingertips. Take the large broken piece of eggshell in your hand instead, and use it as a spoon to scoop the little fallen piece out of the gooey egg white, and voila, it comes out easily. Ever try eating fresh, raw coconut like I did in South India? Then you must know that when you want to eat the coconut meat inside the tough-shelled coconut, it's near impossible to try and scrape it out with a spoon. Use a sliced piece of the external coconut shell as a spoon instead, and the coconut meat swiftly scoops right out. Eggshell for eggshell. Coconut shell for coconut meat. Wounded by a man? Let a man heal you. Suddenly made so much sense. I realized that this was a part of the healing that I could not do for myself. As in, I was never going to feel completely ready for the next relationship. At some point, it would be up to me to take that step forward, choosing to lean into trust. As elementary as that may sound, it was another pivotal kizuki in my path of healing. The truth is, many women come out of once good turned awfully bitter relationships with a defiant "men are scum" incantation. Or how about all good men are either gay or taken? It's a global phenomenon. The male counterpart to that goes something like this. Women can't live with them, can't live without them. All I have to say is that such a mindset only brings about such outcomes. See men as scum, and you're bound to keep attracting scum. Harbor a secret underlying belief that most women are a pain in the ass, and you're bound to magnetically find and fall in love with the craziest bitch of them all. Sound familiar? Apparently, that's the law of like for like in action too. With this revelation in mind, that very day, I wiped my mind clean of any remnants of the idea that men might be scum. Instead, I freshly dedicated my attention to all the awesome and most trustworthy men in my life, starting with my son, Isa, my brother, a fun-loving solid soul, the priest at the shrine, my yoga teacher, and it didn't matter that they were not romantic interests to me. As long as they were of the male species, that would do the job. I just needed to find enough evidence to repaint the landscape of the underlying belief structure of my mind. The thing is, once you start focusing on the good ones, there are many of them out there. Well, of course then, as I finally unlocked that high-security fortress door to my Cinderella heart from the inside, it's just like the universe to deliver me the man, just then, who would become my beloved husband and the true father to my boys. Thank you for listening. Learn more about me in my upcoming book, Kizuki, Realizations Beyond Time and Death, at my website, maey.live, or find me on Instagram at mae_live. Yoshikawa.